What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into the Warchant.com recruiting call-in show with Michael Langston. He's Michael Langston. I'm Aslan Hajavani. Thanks for joining us. You're watching us on YouTube, so if you would subscribe to the page, it would be much appreciated. It's lower right corner, right below Michael. Also, subscribe to Warchant.com. Obviously, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Use that promo code Warchant30 for 30 free days of access. We'll be taking your phone calls all evening long, practically. But before all that, what else should they do, Michael?
You should definitely hit the like button. Hit the like button. That makes us happy and certainly helps us keep pushing this broadcast all the time every week, and keeping everyone up to date on everything that's going on. So certainly hit that like button for us, guys.
We would appreciate it. All right, Michael, before we open the phone lines up, I don't know, we did this last week. We've been doing it every week for a long time now, but I'm dialed into the team, the day-to-day grind, if you will. Any sort of new happenings going on with the Florida State recruiting that if you've been sleeping for the last week or so, you might not be aware of?
Not too much. And I started to do this because I knew people were focused on the team. I did like a follow-up hot board. It's already on our message board. It's basically, it goes through every single guy. I did that for the offense earlier this week. People really liked it. It's just a detailed breakdown, because the bottom line is, Aslan, the point is, people want to know where they stand with kids and recruits. They don't need to hear fluff articles just to tell you, oh yeah, they're involved. I mean, but they want to know where they stand, and that's kind of what I did with the offense. It was another basically new hot board for the offense. I'm wrapping that up with defense. Told Aslan I was wrapping up a few things. So defense, I should post that later tonight. Obviously, I'm going to get into your questions on the message boards after this chat's over, and then I'm in the process of hitting up some prospect updates of guys that are certainly major targets that I'm going to hopefully have more updates on. I can tell you this, that I will have an update on defensive back Terrion Arnold. Met with him earlier this week for about 30-45 minutes. So had a really good article. I think it's pretty open. I think people will be very intrigued by it. I think it speaks to what the previous staff did, and just the feelings he had there, and just what he needs to see from FSU to really be considered with teams like Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. Teams that obviously they put guys in the league every single year, and I think that's what he's kind of looking for FSU. I'll get into that, but there's very much, he's not a kid that's just totally not interested. I think he is interested, but he's going to be locked into that FSU Georgia Tech game. I can tell you that.
All right. Oh, with that said, let's go ahead and get this show started. Take our first call of the day. Who's this and where are you calling us from?
Hey, Aslan. Hey, Michael. It's Gator Kurt from Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
There he is.
Gee.
There he is, man. What is going on, Jader? How are you, man?
I'm good. It's hot as Florida here. It's hot as Florida.
How's the humidity there? Is it bad there too?
Not quite that hot, but
okay.
All right, I got two things. One, any good leads for 2021 transfers, especially offensive line, defensive line, and the Walter Nolan 5-star defensive tackle 2022. What are our real chances of getting a foot in the door to make a presence?
Right. First off, on the 2021 transfers, that probably won't happen, until the season actually gets started, and then as the season, probably midway, I think we'll have some feel on the transfer market. That doesn't usually happen until later in the season, as we saw with the 9 pickups that FSU had in 2020. So I think that's going to pick up once we hit the middle part of the season, and kids see places that they plan on being, or places they looking to transfer. So right now, I think it's too early to tell as far as that goes. Walter Nolan, the number one, I think one of the top players in the country. He is very interested in FSU. I think Georgia, Alabama, Florida State, LSU. Those are some of the schools that I hear the most, especially FSU. I hear that name a lot. There's certainly a long-standing relationship already with Odell Higgins. Certainly, Tennessee is also another team since he's originally from that area. That's where the connection with Norvell comes in. He has a lot of connections. I think Adam Fuller has a lot of connections with this kid. So this is the previous connection that FSU already has. Obviously, FSU shows a good product on the field, which we think they will on the defensive front. Those guys have been phenomenal in the preseason camp from everything I've read. Should have a big year, so that will certainly bolster their chances as far as. And then I think it's just him seeing the product and the defense and the style of play of what they're going to do will certainly much where the pecking order is with FSU. But there's certainly a team that's very has a very real possibility. That's a major target for him. He's the first guy from my FSU contacts that I heard that FSU has mentioned when talking about the deep 22. So that's a plus. And one, they're after him. Obviously, he's got mutual interest, but the other positive is he's originally from Tennessee, so there is some connections with this staff, especially Norvell and especially Fuller, to know him and have a relationship with him. So that's something that we'll monitor and go through. But certainly Tennessee, FSU, Georgia, Alabama, those are some of the teams I hear with him consistently.
Anything else for us, G?
No, I really meant to ask about the JUCO people for that transfer, but I misread it, but that's all right. No, just eat at Zaxby's, hit that thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe to Warchant because there's going to be a lot more coverage as the season gets started. Appreciate everything you all do for recruiting and podcasts and coverage. You're the best show in town.
Good man. Good man. Checks in the mail, G.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the call.
No worries. Y'all have a great night.
He usually says and go Knowles. So I was waiting for him to say the go Knowles, but my man's busy.
That might have been on him.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, transfer-wise, I mean, 2021 guys, that's too far down the line to really start forecasting that stuff, right?
Right. That usually takes a long process. Usually at the end of the season or the later part of your season before kids are even thinking about if they're going to transfer. So the targets aren't going to come out there until around that time. I mean, nobody's going to transfer during a season. So, I mean, it's going to happen probably after the season. So a little early that, but there's never a bad question. It's all good. I mean, people need to know because, sometimes people don't know, how the transfer market works. And, with JUCOs, I think he was trying to get at, which is those will happen probably mid-season. I think you'll see a lot more JUCO prospects that will jump on the radar that we'll hear with FSU. So it'll pick up probably even earlier than that because there's not a JUCO season. I think they canceled the JUCO season. So I think the visits and the interest will happen a little bit quicker than what we usually see, maybe a month faster. But that's just something that at least we'll have to wait until the season starts.
All right. Well, we got a couple questions, I think, that dovetail into one another. Brandon asking when's the dead period over, and then Giovanni asking when can students start visiting, and who are the priorities to get on campus ASAP. So is there any update on that in terms of when the dead period is going to get lifted?
The dead period is supposed to last until the end of September. That could be subject to change, obviously, with the first 2 weeks. If the first two weeks go, I can see the NCAA lifting that ban and then setting a date immediately, but maybe a week after that. But for now, they have it listed in the guidelines NCAA that it's at least till September 3rd. So students can start visiting when that's lifted. Now that date could, like I said, it could change. FSU plays their first game September 12th. If everything goes smoothly throughout the whole college football and they think it's good, they might change that date and move it up. Maybe, just, a week after that. I don't know. But it just depends on, a lot depends on, in my opinion, of how these first few weeks go. And if they go smoothly, I think at the very least, you could see kids visiting right after the end of September. So that's when you could probably see, as far as ASAP, I would say, certainly Amaris Mims will be a big one to have on campus. number one offensive tackle. I mean, that would be big. I think getting Tywone Malone, who hasn't visited FSU, is itching to visit FSU. Those kind of kids are big. And then kids like Chambray Jackson and Destin Payson, who are close to pulling the trigger, I think that could push them over the edge to committing. So getting those guys back on campus. And I think another thing people don't mention is just if you could get your commits on campus consistently, because I think that's what FSU commits are planning, is to get everyone together so they can have, when uncommitted guys are on campus, they can really work on these guys. You know, guys like Hunter Washington, Luke Altmeyer, those guys, having those guys on campus with other targets that you're after, both for the 2022 and 2021, is certainly really big. Mentioned Byron Carwell out of California. That's a big one that you want to go on campus since he's never visited. I think it's more so the targets that I mentioned in our hot boards that haven't visited FSU, and I kind of covered each one of who hasn't visited. I think those are the guys like Tywone Malone's and certainly Amaris Mims. Those are the guys that you want consistently on your campus that are high on their radar. I went through, when I originally did the offensive hot board this week, I went through my top 5. And I mentioned I didn't change what I said to the recruiting chat, which was Chambray Jackson will be my number one, just because I think he's a major. He changes everything. He could grow into a defensive tackle or defensive end. It helps you in both of those areas. Amaris Mims, I covered him. Destin Payson, Terrion Arnold, all those guys. Tywone Malone, Ruquan Buckley, all those guys are in my top 5 as far as guys that I think are important to get on campus, especially guys like Buckley and Malone who have never visited FSU. So I think that's the big priorities that you want to get on campus.
All right. Well, let's keep it rolling here. We got questions from our good friends here on YouTube. FSU all day. Do you think FSU ends up getting Laurence Seymore?
I mean, I can't actually say if I think they're going to get him because we have to see how the visit goes when he visits FSU. He was planning on visiting FSU twice early in the spring. So that kind of thwarted their problems as far as when he was coming on campus. He's very close with Maurice Smith, who's already on the team, I think a sophomore center. So those two are close. He's close with Jarvis Brownlee and Malcolm Ray. He knows those guys really well. So there's a connection with the staff. And I've heard that he's really developed a strong relationship with Atkins. So I think the ingredients are there for FSU to get him. But we have to see how the visits go. I think Florida is heavily involved as well. Florida State and Florida are the two teams to watch as far as if they're going to flip him. And he seems to be open to wanting to continue this process very clearly. I think FSU probably likes him mostly at guard, even though he's listed as a tackle. I think he's mostly a guard. Really athletic, kills people down the field, as you see in these clips. So I think he's a guy that one of the few, I think, that they, as far as interior guys, that they would certainly take in this class, and they would want him. And he's definitely coveted, and they're recruiting hard, at least talking to him at least twice a week, maybe sometimes 3 times a week. I think Atkins has already done a great job. This kid is itching to get Florida State. He really wants to visit Florida State campus, and I think once he's on campus the first time, I can really get a sense of, can they get this guy? To answer your question, FSU all day, clearly, to answer really clearly. But from a relationship standpoint and from an interest standpoint, there's certainly mutual interest for both sides. I can at least say that right now.
Man, he pulls and obliterates people. He just fires off the line and obliterates people. He just goes to the second level and obliterates people. Sign him up.
Yeah, I think why some people like him at tackles, just his footwork is so quick that I personally think he's more of a guard when you watch him, but he can certainly play tackle. Rare because he's 6'2", and you don't have many 6 guys that play tackle. But he's got such really good footwork that's why there's attraction with the offensive tackle position. So I'm not going out that he couldn't play offensive tackle, but I think most people like him as guards. But I think he's a tremendous prospect, and he's certainly one of the highest guys that FSU is going, the hardest after. Obviously, Amaris Mims would be number 1, but I think Seymore would be really high up there.
All right. Let's keep it moving here. Uncle Rico. Good name, by the way. What's the feeling on Marvin Jones Jr.? What other schools are in it with him?
I would say the ones that you expect, which is FSU, Miami. I think FSU is probably the team that stands out the most from what I hear. He visited FSU on his own, actually, all the way from Miami. Took a trip over there, I guess, with family to come down. I think he looked at FSU and just stayed there for a day. I think FSU's in the best spot with him. Basically, an outside linebacker / defensive end. Think he could play that buck position, the Fox position that we always talk about. I see him fitting into that Fox role, which is kind of a mixture of linebacker and defensive end. I think he's another one of those kids that is itching to see what this defense is going to look like. I think if they check the boxes as far as that goes, then I think FSU is going to be sitting in a good spot there. But right now, I think they sit really good. Obviously, his dad is Marvin Jones, the legend linebacker that played at FSU. I think everyone knows that. But I think this kid's the one that grew up liking FSU, so that's already a plus that you have to do it. And I think they haven't taken for granted where they're just recruiting him softly. They went after him hard. This is a guy that they pushed for from the beginning since this staff got the job. He's a guy they love. They want on this team. They want in this class, and certainly have not let up on as far as that interest. So I think right now I would get FSU the edge.
Man, there was that photo of him photoshopped in a Miami jersey that didn't go over well a few weeks ago. But look at him, yeah, man. All right, now let's not lose him. Let's keep him around. Let's see if we can keep him in tow. Let's double back. Apologies to Sean Monroe. He asked this earlier. I forgot to get to him, though. But Julian Armella, speaking of legacies, offensive tackle. That's obviously a position of need. How well is Florida State doing right now with Julian, you think, Michael?
Yeah, number one need in FSU's 2022 class. I think they're doing pretty well with him. The relationship with Atkins is really strong. I think they've done a great job with him. They talk to him daily, sometimes twice or three times a day. They've done a great job as far as developing their own brand, as far as the relationship, what they're going to do, what they're looking for in offensive linemen. Everyone knows Julian grew up a fan of FSU. His dad, Enzo, played at FSU. But at the same time, he's a national that everyone's going to want. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, all these teams are going to want him. So it's key. I think he's another one of those guys. The guy asked me earlier who's a key visitor. This is probably the number one visitor that you want on campus because once he gets on campus, I think FSU can kind of set the tone as far as other teams chasing them, of setting the tone either good or bad of where they stand. I think we'll really know a lot. I think if FSU really knocks out of the park with the visit, because the relationship's already developing in a pretty solid way, but I think as long as he clicks on the visit, I think FSU is definitely will not be easy to knock off because of that. I don't think he's a guarantee. His dad played at FSU. I think he's going to give every school an equal opportunity. I think he's going to come into FSU all the time. They love FSU and all that stuff. That's true and all that stuff, but I think he's going to also look at it from a business standpoint where, what place is the best fit, what place clicks the best with him. So that's why I think that visit, when he does take one to FSU, which I think will be pretty early whenever they allow visits, I think he's one of the most important visits I'm tracking. How he clicks with the players, the coaches, and just feeling when he's there, the comfort level that he has with FSU, I think that's going to really tell where this thing's going.
All right. Let's keep this thing rolling on here. 850-792-5730. That is your call-in. Trying to hammer down who specifically William McMillan is referring to here. I did find a man by the name of Curtis Dunlap. Big boy. But he went to IMG, so I'm not sure if this is the actual guy he's talking about. But Minnesota has a 4-star offensive lineman that just went to the portal. So he wants to get back closer to home. He's from Jacksonville. Do you think we can get him? Well, hey, we don't even know who that is. You didn't even give us a specific name. William, tighten up. I love you, though, man. We appreciate you. See if you can find a name for us. We're going to take a phone call in the meantime. Welcome on into the Warchant.com recruiting call-in show with Michael Langston. Who's this and where are you calling us from?
Hello. Good afternoon, gentlemen. This is Noah Sam from South Florida.
All right. That's right. That's right. Where in South Florida are you
Hey.
from? No man from South Florida.
Actually, I am from Hollywood.
That's right. That's right. MacArthur,
Hollywood.
stand up. MacArthur, stand up.
Yeah,
There you
like
go.
way of Miami Gardens, by
Yeah.
way of Liberty City. I currently live in Pembroke Pines, and I frequent on weekends in Fort Lauderdale. So
Okay, look at you,
that's pretty much everything.
Mr. 954.
Yes, 954 for life.
There we go.
954 for life. Mr. Langston, how you doing there, sir?
I think we might have
Hello?
lost Michael. We've been having some. I don't know if it's my end or Michael's end. We've had some connectivity issues here, but Michael looks like he might be lost in the pixelization. But if you want to ask your question, maybe
Again,
I can
every time I call.
maybe there's something with you then, man. Maybe you're bringing too much juice, maybe too much sauce from 954. We can't handle up here in the capital city, man.
Actually, there's one thing that I wanted to ask Michael, not necessarily from a FSU recruiting standpoint, but like from a what could be just a overall recruiting standpoint. It's something that I talked about like a few days ago with some buddies. We was talking about like the school like like North Dakota State and
The Bison.
how like hello.
The Bison. Yeah, I'm sorry. Continue. I apologize.
Yeah, North Dakota State, and like you say, like for the last, I would say 6, 7, 8 years or so, they've been a under the radar, like quarterback U type of school. Obviously with Carson Wentz, and actually I believe they have a kid that
Trey Lane. I think Trey Lane's his name. They
like,
got a
Some guys think he'll go.
Like,
Trey Lane may be like a Deshaun Watson 2.0, like in the potentially in the next year or two. I wanted to ask him, because he's a recruiting expert, obviously, about is North Dakota State, do they have something like they're tapping into a resource that other schools just don't know about? Because, like, in my personal opinion, say with Carson Wentz, a lot of people said that North Dakota was, like they took him out of nowhere and developed him, and I don't think that's the case at all. I just think that nobody knew who he was. Like, if he was literally like in Indiana or any other place in the country, like he would have been like a heavily recruited kid. I want to know Michael's opinion about that, and also like if North Dakota State were to have like continued success with quarterbacks, will other Power 5 schools, FSU included, would be tapping into the Dakotas and the Minnesota areas, those small town areas, to get quarterback talent?
Yeah, that's a good question. Trey, sorry my connection booted out there for a second, but I got all the question, what you asked. But I think the main thing is North Dakota State finds, they're not that their talent isn't good, and they might not be rated high in the high ranking circles, but they find these guys that kind of fit what they do. Obviously, they develop them well, but I think you alluded to, these guys have a special skill set that jumps out to them. And bottom line is, recruiting experts get it wrong a lot. That's not uncommon. They miss on these guys that I mean, how many times have you seen the NFL draft where you see 2, 3-star guys that are, first round picks, in there? So I think this is a case of North Dakota State does their homework. It's worked out. It's panned out. Now, I'm sure they've had guys that they've done that with that haven't worked out. But in those are Trey Lance and Carson Wentz are guys that certainly have benefited. Yeah, I think FSU, I think Norvell's going to look at every angle and every area. There's a guy that jumps out that he feels can play here. I don't think he really cares where they're from or anything. So they're certainly going to look into it. As you appear on the screen, Trey Lance is a 2-star dual threat quarterback. So like I said, these guys have skills, but sometimes you fill up in your class of guys that you feel can connect and play in your certain system. I think Trey fit that system for North Dakota State, and it worked out good for him as far as the skill set and development. But I don't think it's happening consistent enough where North Dakota State is doing something more different than say FSU. I think they're just hitting on these guys that other schools passed on, and they're reaping the benefits. But I don't think it's like a consistent pattern all the time. I think it's just been they fortunately done really good evaluations on both Wentz and this Trey Lance kid. So I think you'll see more schools going into these smaller places and smaller schools of guys that they can take a chance on. But I wouldn't consider it like a consistent basis as far as an anomaly of constantly seeing guys. I mean, seeing constantly top-rated guys, going to North Dakota State. I think it's worked out for them. I think what it does is it's going to bring more awareness to schools around the country that, hey, we need to hit these little small markets up in Minnesota or Wisconsin or places where people are passing on these kids. So I think it's more of awareness more than it is I think it's awareness, but it's also a big thing as far as the job that North Dakota State's done as far as evaluating these quarterbacks. Whoever's evaluating their quarterbacks is doing a hell of a job.
There you go.
Okay.
Well said. Anything else, Knowles fan from South Florida?
Actually, you know what? Yeah, one more thing. Because I know you heard about Jamie Newman, the quarterback out of Georgia. Like he opted out, or something like that. And I know rumors are actually circling around. My next door neighbor's a Georgia fan, and he's telling me that someone quarterback from Ohio State, Justin Fields.
Right.
Justin Fields may end up transferring back to Georgia. Like how true that is, I don't know, but it's something circling around with their fan base. Just to throw it out there. Just in actually both of y'all opinions, how did both of y'all feel about the current state of recruiting and re-recruiting and kids jumping from one school to another, and then they may jump back to the school that they left and all that stuff. And actually, you know what? I'm about to hit the road. I'll just hang up and listen. But
Okay.
Michael Langston, before you answer that, Michael Langston, y'all got lucky last night. Y'all got lucky last night.
I like it.
Baltimore lose, but you know what? But tonight, I actually have a heat shirt on because they're gonna beat Milwaukee. They're gonna see Boston in the East Conference Finals, and hopefully they will knock off the Celtics. But that being said, I'll actually hang up and listen to the question. I suppose everybody, share, subscribe, listen to Aslan. Oh, Aslan, one more thing.
Yeah, man.
I'm pro horn. You play that horn.
Right.
You play that horn, young man.
I will. Thank you. I appreciate it.
There you go.
Thanks for the call, man.
Yeah, we appreciate the call. Yeah, appreciate the call. Knowles fan from South Florida. I know he posts on the board frequently. A lot to unpack there. As far as the Celtics, I won't talk too much about that, except I'm excited we're up 2-0. But anyway, as far as this question, yeah, I'm not a fan of the transfer portal. I'm not a big fan of it because there's no control of it. I think you have to have control of things. I mean, it's like you look at this year, everyone's getting waivers like crazy. It's like there just doesn't seems wild west where there's no control over reasons. There should be specific reasons of why you get a waiver. And I understand. I want kids to have the opportunity to transfer somewhere, but nowadays we're getting kids transferring just for no reason. There's not even a specific reason behind them leaving. And then, now you can go back to somewhere. It's too much jumping around. You got to have, some kind of organization as far as that goes. That's kind of my opinion on it. Jamie Newman and all these guys. I mean, you're seeing guys that certainly are directly affected status, and as far as the coronavirus, that they don't want to risk, something happening and not getting in a full year, even though their eligibility is affected. I think kids are just, not willing to take that risk that are going to be, guys that NFL draft is more important to them than, playing that one more season.
Let's keep it rolling here on the show. Phone lines are actually took it down. I didn't realize how long you might go into that soliloquy, so I didn't want to have somebody call in and interrupt. So I'll open the phone line back up. It's right there on your screen, 850-792-5730. This question comes from Jay Rikers. Chances we get a commitment before the start of the season.
It could happen. I mean, the season's basically going to start for a lot of these teams sometime this month in September. I think some of them have already began. I think guys like Payson and Jackson, Chambray Jackson, that is, those are the guys I'm focused on as far as I think they could get one from either one of those guys, maybe both, before the season. I'd give it a 50-50 chance. Pop Pip asked when I think Payson pop. I don't have a set time, but I think whenever he does pop, it's going to be FSU. I haven't heard anything to lead me away from that. So I think either one of these, if not both of these guys, could jump on board with FSU before the season starts. Can I say it definitely? No, because neither one has indicated a set timeline or date. But I get the sense that both of them are close to doing it. We'll see if that happens, but I do think it's a possibility. Like I give it a 50-50 chance that it would happen.
How about this? What up, Ray? One more time from my boy Ray Pereira. Now the show can begin. There we go. Let's Altmeyer. Thank you for real, Ray. Shout out to our boy Tay yesterday, dropping 100. It just I don't know what possesses you people to do this, but I'm not going to complain about it. It's amazing. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Luke Altmeyer, man. How solid, Michael? Yeah.
I think pretty solid. I think FSU's in pretty solid shape with their we know there's going to be other schools that are going to, try to push. Alabama's already filled their void as far as quarterbacks, so you don't have to worry about them, even though I wasn't really massively concerned like other people, I guess, on the message boards were. I think, certainly going to have schools that are going to try to get involved with. I mean, there's relationships, like I said, go deep. And it's like I'm not just saying that just to hear myself say that. I mean, him and Dillingham and Norvell, I mean, they're one of the few coaches that really went all in for Altmeyer early on when other teams were kind of, slow playing here and there. It's like, I don't know if I'll go out. FSU didn't hesitate. It's a big deal with Luke that they wanted him before pretty much anybody, and now he's kind of blown up. Things have taken off. And, like I said, schools in Mississippi, schools in the South that, are probably going to show some interest. But I think most schools have they understand that this is going to be a difficult pull to get him from FSU because of that relationship and because he's so itching to get to FSU. He's on social media all the time, promoting FSU so often. I know in the group chats he's very active. He reaches out to recruits all the time. So this is a guy that's been very active as far as in the recruiting process of helping them build the class. And usually when a quarterback does that, it's a pretty good sign that he's pretty firm in the place he's at.
I just don't, hey man, I'm just a guy with a podcast every now and then. Like, how is this not 5-star tape, man? I mean, like the first minute is him just throwing laser beams. The second minute is him just throwing great touch on deep balls, perfectly placed. You see him scrambling, resetting his feet in the pocket, and he's playing the best competition in the state of Mississippi that has really good high school football. I mean, just the way his releases, man, everything, like mechanically, just kid's the goods. And that's the thing, man. I love Chubb. Luke Altmeyer, I'm sure ain't coming here to hold the clipboard. Chubb Purdy didn't come here to hold the clipboard. Tate Rodemaker didn't come here to hold the clipboard. There's going to be a lot of competition, and somebody's going to leave, but whoever stays around is going to be a really good quarterback. This is incredible, man. Look at
it's perplexing to his ranking. I mean, I think he's around 100 this kid play. I mean, but I don't get into rankings because I don't have any control of that. But yeah, his film is phenomenal. When you watch him throw, I mean, it's phenomenal.
Gator still doesn't like the horn. It'll grow on you one of these days. One of these days, it will grow on you. I promise you. Let's move it back to the offensive line, Michael. Terrence Montford asking what's going on with Roderick Orr.
Yeah, it's been kind of quiet there. I mean, Tennessee, Florida State, they're the teams I hear consistently with him. Some with Mississippi State a little bit, not so much Ole Miss. But I think those three teams are teams that I hear mostly, Tennessee, some a little bit on Missouri, but I don't think he's in a hurry. Good news for FSU, which is always good news for FSU, is there's not he's not in a hurry to decide. People thought he was going to decide before the season. That didn't happen. He's already started his season, so I think he's going to wait until later on, if not after the season. So that's certainly a positive. He's going to visit. I think FSU is going to certainly visit Tennessee, Missouri, those teams. So I think really he's in a visit process now where once you start the season, if you don't decide by then, you're either going to decide mid-season or you're going to decide after the season. So I think that's what's going on with Rod Orr right now. It's been kind of quiet as far as from a lot of angles. I've checked all those teams that I covered, all the contacts with those teams, and heard anything as far as there being a lot of development there. So I think we're in a holding pattern with Roderick until probably he takes some.
Let's see.
Or visits are allowed.
All right. We got a caller here. Let's see if we can get this patch through properly. Thanks for calling on in. Who's this and where are you calling us from?
It's Jeremy from South Florida.
Oh, there we go. Keep that 954 flavor in the show. Jeremy, welcome to the program, man. How are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
Good. I don't call in this show as much as I should, but I keep up every week with you guys. You guys are great here.
I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Mike, after we got Coach Norvell, you had said that there was a lot of great buzz for him among the high school coaches. Has he lost some of that traction because everything was shut down? Got a lot of work to make up now?
I don't think there was a slipping or anything like that. I think he talks with these coaches all the time. I think it's just a matter of it did hurt them that he couldn't get these coaches in the spring, couldn't get them in the summer, which is a big time of where you can develop relationships. So that kind of hurt him a little bit. But I think there is so much consistent communication with coaches. I know Norvell's even talked about that in his daily press conference that he's reaching out, talking to consistently high school coaches to develop relationships. But you can't beat that in person. So I guess the in person stuff hurts them a little bit. But I think as long as you start the season and then they're allowed to have kids on campus, I think that part will develop during the season. But he's so good as far as his connection with coaches and the way how straightforward he is about everything as far as his product and what it's going to be. I think once people see his product, I think the relationship stuff will take care of itself.
All right, well, I'll keep it short and sweet. Thank you, guys. Like on YouTube.
You got it.
There we go. That's right, man. Jeremy, thanks as always, man. Appreciate it.
Take care.
That's right. That is right. Shout out to the Premier Youth Theater. Theater, I like saying, although it's theater. Claremont, Florida. Stand up. No current productions due to COVID.
Yeah.
Let's get those kids, let's get them some culture back in there. Thanks for the PYT shout out. Pretty young thing. Great content. No questions, but enjoy the show, John. Appreciate the kind note. I know Michael does as well.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thanks for the contributions and everything.
For sure. Sorry to cut you off there, Michael. I hear a little reverberation on here. Shout out to James Williams Jr.'s grandmother and Sandra Gordon. She's in the house. She's always watching, Michael. She's always watching. All right.
Yep. Talked to her last week on YouTube. And my email's the same, Sandra. I don't know what the problem is. You can email me at michael@warchant.com. That's MICHAEL @warchant.com website. And if you send me an email, her grandson's sketch. So I'm kind of waiting on that because I'm.
Think you're broken up.
That's my email. Hit me up, Sandra. I'll be around.
All right. I don't know. Maybe it's my internet then that's being a problem. I don't know. He broke up a touch there, but she did have a question from earlier. I apologize, Sandra. We'll get to it now, though, with an assist. Somebody gave us an assist. Rose, no-blooded, obviously. Everybody knows Rose in the hood.
Okay.
Basically, I think Thad Franklin is who she was implying about the running back that FSU and Miami are both trying to get. Does that sound about right, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's committed to Miami. He's talking about Thaddeus Franklin. He's in high school. He is committed to Miami, but FSU's pushing hard to get him in the fold. I think obviously playing time and how many backs they have is a big deal to him. I think the sell job with David Johnson in with Thad is just or every down back for FSU. FSU guy. This is certainly a power guy with some good amount of speed. I think FSU is a very real possibility, and I think that's a team that we're certainly going to have to consider throughout the whole process. I think it's also a good possibility. You could see FSU make a move here.
Okay. All right, let's keep this moving, this train. Another question, I'm sure, as I'm scrolling through here. I wish I could just pull them all up at once and just like shuffle through them, but that would make life easy. And we're not going to roll that way. We're going to make it difficult. Not difficult. I'm rambling here. FSU all day. I watched Nico Marshall's highlight earlier. It was legit. Is FSU in the driver's seat? Marshall? Nico. Everyone knows Nico.
Yes, I think they're in a very good spot with Nico. I think that I haven't heard anything that's going to change my mind. I think I checked again. This weekend I've heard that FSU they're looking good. There's no set date as far as deciding, but I've heard that FSU feels pretty confident there, and the people around the FSU. This is another one that kind of goes back to that relationship that Norvell and Dillingham have. It's a long-standing with Nico. So I think, yes, they're sitting in a very good spot with Nico there.
Also, shout out to the Godfather, Gene Williams. I think he went ahead and answered Williams' question from earlier about the offensive lineman in the portal from Minnesota. It was Curtis Dunlap, the aforementioned player from IMG. But Florida State's all fill up on the ships, y'all. I'm pretty sure that's why Deontay Pitt got scholarships.
Yeah, just guys, there's no room for FSU to add another transfer until the 2021 class. So that's following like next year or the end of this year. So no more scholarships. They're tapped out. So they can't add anything for this upcoming season. The following season, they could probably add that up. By the way, if my connection's choppy sometimes, I apologize, guys. I'm fixing that next week. I had a direct connection that I'm going to hook up, but I didn't do that, Gene. I'm sorry. I didn't do it. I figured it would work fine, but with a few choppy connections here and there, but I will fix that certainly for our next week broadcast for sure. I will hook that up.
I feel like we never had a problem. I think the only time we had a problem, it was my fault. Like I wasn't hardwired plugged in, or we didn't have any internet over here in the Midtown offices. You've been pretty solid. I can't believe things are shaky on the east side of town, but such is life. I'm going to drill a hole in this wall behind me, I think, because I currently have a spool of like 100 yards of Ethernet cable that I have to put all the way through my living room into here. So I'm going to drill a hole, I think, and just drag it on through here. So I'm nice and aerodynamic, but no one cares about that. Twin Rivers. We spoke about this kid last week too. Is there anything you want, Michael Trigg?
But I was.
We're losing.
I think people keep asking the same question because they've seen the article. FSU's the leader. But I think South Carolina is the main team there. I think they look the best with him.
Okay. And they're pretty good at tight end, right? I mean, they got my guy Jackson West, and then if River Helms jumps on board, Jordan Wilson has that 7th year or 6th year of eligibility. So maybe tight end's not as pressing as it once was. But I feel like that kid's going to be
good.
I think
River Helms. Yeah, I think River Helms is their last one. I think River Helms is the last one they want. I've heard, Rivers told one side of the Rivals Network, FSU's recruiting him the hardest. I get the Cody Gross, the judo tight end. So if you add River, that kind of finalizes your tight end.
Trying to pull this kid up here as Malachi Nelson. Is that a name that sounds familiar at all, Michael? Lewis Ross asking, what's our chance? What's our chance with 2023 quarterback from California, Nelson? The internet told me this. I don't know. Malachi Nelson, that's a guy. Do we know anything about it?
They've offered him, but it's still pretty early. He hasn't visited really anywhere. We'll have to wait and see when he starts taking visits to really know what their chances are. Lewis, that will happen once the visits start. I know FSU is FSU, Tennessee, obviously some West Coast teams he would like to check out, but I think FSU and Tennessee are teams that he definitely wants to see. So the visits happen, it's really hard to dictate what the chances are.
Gator Kirk trying to take your job, Michael. Uncle Rico asked, who's the top target for quarterback at 2022? And Gator said Nico and MJ Morris. Can you confirm?
Kirk, good job. Yeah, those are the two top ones.
Across back in Iran, it's like there's a 10-second delay between when I ask the question and when they hear me ask the question.
Okay. Yeah, definitely those are the top two guys. They've been the top two. Those are the ones they're pushing the hardest for. I would throw in Braden Davis as well. He plays at IMG. He's the guy that transferred, I think, from Delaware over to IMG, guy that they're very active with. So I would put him in that as far as the triplets is the quarterback. So I think Nico is the guy that people need to get to know the most. I think he's the one they have the best shot at. I think Braden is obviously on there as well. So, but definitely, yes, those two are definitely high up there. But I think lately Braden Davis is a guy that's certainly been moving up there.
How about Papa Smurf? Is Travis Hunter a hard commit? 22 class. His tape is amazing.
Yes, his tape is amazing. Yes, he's a very solid commit. Marcus Woodson was a big deal with this one. He's very close with Marcus. He loves FSU. That was his dream school. He's been very active recruiting for FSU. Actually helped land them a few 2022 and 23 guys that they've gotten already. He's actually the cousin of Cedric Baxter that's committed to FSU. He's from Orlando, Edgewater. So he helped a big deal in that. But yes, he's very firm in that pledge. Doesn't mean other schools aren't going after him. Chad Stevens did a really good article about how locked in he is. So you should read that. Papa Smurf's a really good write-up. He talks about just really how firm that pledge is, how he's locked into FSU, and he can't wait to get there. And but you're right, his tape is absolutely amazing. This kid can be dynamic on offense or defense.
All right, I mean, okay, I like it. Amazing is a strong word. I like it though. I mean, shoot, Florida State needs some linebacker help. Oh, look at that! There you go, making plays. All right, Timothy Frederick, Michael. What's the deal with Payson?
We just hasn't set a timeline to decide. There's no deal. There's no. If there was worry, I would tell you guys. If there was a team that it was jumping in there that concerned me, I would. There's not any team. He just hasn't decided. And when he does decide, I think it's going to be FSU. I feel really good about it. It's like if I got something that I could give you guys that was a reason that was a concern for me, I would tell you, Timothy. But like I've said, I check on this every week, and every weekly I check on this as far as Payson. There is a very high confidence as far as him being an adult.
Ms. Gordon shares her appreciation. She likes
Franklin
running back, so that's very good. Let's see here. What else do we got? Man, those are about the questions we have so far here on there. FSU all day. I like that. That's literally D'Angelo Russell. No comment. That's good observation, but no comment. Otherwise, phone line still open, 850-792-5730 as we wind things down here. About 10 minutes left in the program today on the Warchant.com recruiting call-in show with Michael Langston. Michael, you mentioned, I think, kind of at the top of the show, just how important it is to get these guys on campus. Like, do you have a feel at all for what Norvell and the staff wants to do? Do you think they'll try to there'll be that big weekend, home run weekend, where they'll try to get everybody on campus at once? I know it's hard to say, or do you think they'll try to maybe space it out and have some guys, for maybe the Clemson game, if that's possible down the road? Or how do you think they'll attack things when they finally are able to get kids on campus?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think at first the main thing is that when you get the commits on campus, and just have a commit presence with any uncommitted guy. Obviously, the games, the big games with Clemson. It's going to be big for FSU to have all their top recruits and uncommitted guys. They want them there. They want to show the product. So I think you see them highlight a lot as far as the big games, but also I think they want to have at least one or several commits on campus when these other uncommitted guys visit. So I think we're going to see as soon as they let the guys visit, I think we're going to see a mass amount of visitors, probably more even for the smaller games, assuming the NCAA allows them to visit. I think you're going to have a big group of visitors consistently, but certainly those big games, I think they're going to focus on, hey, this is what our product is, this is where it stands, this is what we're doing, and we're showing them how they're changing the culture by just showing the different products on offense and defense. I think they want as many kids as they can get to see it. Whether they win the game or they lose the game, it's about the product they're selling, and that's why I think they're really going to highlight these big games and like Clemson and Florida. Those games are not this year with Florida, but you know what I'm saying. In a weekly year, the big games, they're going to certainly have a lot of recruits on campus, and that's going to be something that whether they win the game or lose the game is not the important. It's about selling the product.
Two guys want to know this, so Michael, you can't just say that I'm the recruiting guy and don't talk about team stuff. So Brandon Gray wants to know how the game's going to be Saturday. Ray Pereira wants a score prediction for the Georgia Tech game.
Oh man, guys, I'll be honest, I'm not even at practice, so I have no idea. When I see FSU play Georgia Tech, it's going to be the first time. So I would love. Heck, I'll throw you one 31-17 FSU. That would be my pick. I'm going to roll with that. But that's just me basing all the observations together of what our great team has done as far as our team coverage, Aslan included. All these guys have done a phenomenal job keeping me up to date. Hell, I'm calling Ira on the phone to find out what's going on and see how things are looking in practice. But it's just like it's new to me. I know I do the recruiting stuff, but a lot of the stuff is still new to me as far as what they're going to look like. So when you guys see them, that'll be the first time I see them. But I'm liking what I'm hearing. I'm liking the direction, the preparation, organization, and an understanding of the small details of what Norvell's done as far as his team. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. But again, we have to see what the product is on the field. And that's kind of leads into my defensive back, a Terrion Arnold update that I've talked about. I got that coming up. I'm going to actually do a video with Aslan. He doesn't even know it yet. So we're going to do a video later, just break down what happened in that interview and how that went. And like I said, the performance, and Terrion made this clear. It's not about the wins. It's about he wants to see some dogs out there. He wants to see a different attitude. And that's kind of the gist you'll hear in the article. I think that's what he's looking for. And I think if he gets that, FSU will be a major player. But I think that's what he's looking for. And I think that's what a lot of recruits are looking for. They want to see a different FSU because the FSU they saw the last 2 years is not a recognizable FSU to these recruits. Like this is very uncharted territory to what recruits are used to seeing. So I think they're going to focus on that. I think Terrion's focused on that. I think a lot of the top targets, both 2021 and 22, they want to see what these guys are going to, how different do they look? It's not about just the wins. Like I tell people, it's about playing these games to show the product of what you're going to be and what you're lacking and what you may be good at and what your strengths are. Say James Blackman really turns it around and we see a major change with him, Aslan. That's going to be a major recruiting tool that FSU is going to be able to use. Like, look at what this guy did with two other coaches couldn't do anything with him. Norvell turned him around. He's going to look like a quarterback guru if it works out. But we'll see. But there's so many factors that could benefit FSU with these games. That's why I say the games are the most important. It's not about the W's. It's about what you like, the product is look like, how much organization is there, the preparation, seeing all that stuff. Because I tell you, the most consistent thing I've heard from recruits when the previous staff was, that was not a recognizable FSU. That's not what FSU football is. So I think that's why this season is so big to see what kind of product and special product that Norvell is putting on the field. They all read the takeaways every day, the mission takeaways that Adam Fuller's putting up. They see the video from these kids. They see what their excitement is there. But I think there's going to be a lot of eyes tuned in for that FSU Georgia Tech game to see what the product truly looks like.
He's back. My king, Tay Miller in the house. Yeah. Welcome to the show,
Big Money Tay. Big Money Tay.
Tay come out of nowhere. We're wrapping things up yesterday, Corey and I on the live pod, and with like 30 seconds left in the game, he's just like 90-yard dime touchdown. Here's $100 American. So Tay back to the game. Much obliged, Big Money Tay. If we can beat Miami, I'm predicting us going 9-2. Clemson and Notre Dame will be our 2 losses for the season. All right, man.
I think every FSU fan would take that, Tay. I mean, I think everyone would hope for that. Obviously, it would be a big positive effect in recruiting if that happened, Tay. But certainly, I think every FSU fan will take that. I mean, 2 in your first year. I think you'll knock it out of the park in recruiting if you have those results.
That's a serious setup, man. Is that like actually in the Florida State locker room where they have the retired jerseys encased in glass? I think that's actually in there, man. It looks legit.
That's good. I like that. Tay, you got the best avatar so far that I've seen. That's incredible.
That's a win. Yeah, man. With James Blackman, it comes down to the Miami game. You beat Miami, and then it's full steam ahead. And if you don't beat Miami, well, then next week's Jacksonville State. Chuba is 7 weeks, I think, removed from his collarbone injury. That's a 6-week injury. And then you kind of see where you go from there. So I'm excited to see what James can do next Saturday, which is crazy, man. Next Saturday, 10 days. 10 freaking days.
That's crazy.
And Doak. So we'll see how that all shakes out. We got one other question here. We'll pop Tay back up, give him FaceTime. He deserves it here. Maybe we need to find a different.
Thank you, Tay. Appreciate that.
Different adjective. Ryan C., what current FSU player were you most infatuated with as a recruit? Maybe let's
infatuated.
I'm trying to think back.
I don't know if I'd use.
Go ahead, Mike.
I don't know if I'd use the word infatuated. There's a lot of recruits. I mean, I would say last year's class. I mean, I hate to just keep being a dead horse, but Chuba Purdy just really intrigues me. I was kind of disappointed when he got injured because I really love this kid's skill set. When you watch him, the way he runs, just the way you just don't usually see guys that are the dual threat guys that have the ball placement that he has, that he puts the ball there almost right on the money, whether he's on the run, running to one side or the other. His ability to usually have one or the other. You either have an electric runner or you have a guy that's very established as a passer. And he intrigues me. When saying infatuated, he intrigues me the most as far as I just love his dynamic ability to just change the game. He seems to be a guy that can really just hurt you in a multiple ways. I mean, that guy really intrigues me. Steven Dix really intrigues me as well. I love the way he plays. He's an old school player. People know my love with Travis J. I think he's a baller. I think he's going to be a first-round pick. I think that kid is special. There's very few that have the size and the weight and the speed that Travis does. But Travis's best quality is how he tracks the football. That's kind of been lacking in the defensive backfield. How many times you see the DB not know where the ball is? Travis is excellent at this. I think he's going to stand out big in that area at the safety position. So I think those guys are the ones I'm most excited about.
The first recruiting class I ever kept up with was 2003. So like Ernie and Cromartie, like I was checking, updates on those guys all the time. Like, oh no, Ernie's in Georgia. What are we going to do? Like, oh no, Cromartie might go to Florida. What are we going to do? But yeah, I don't know. Like, again, infatuate's kind of an uncomfortable word, I would say. But those
well, it's just different. I mean, I think he probably meant excited or intrigued or intrigues you. So I answer it for him. Yeah, all good. It's all good. Wording, worded kind of a different way.
Next offseason, I know we did some of those recruiting retrospectives with Gene. We need to do one with like you and I if there's not a spring tour. I just want to go back and talk about each class in terms of like the guys that we missed out on that I was just like totally heartbroken about. There's so many guys that we lost. I'm like, no, like, how are we ever going to win?
We might have to have might be a 2-hour show if we do that with all the ones they missed, the ones we go to. It's like
we'll spread it. We'll spread it out. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. All right, man. We've hit the hour mark, man. We've made it. So you're going to be working on something. Apparently, you and I are both going to be working on something with Terrion Arnold. That's what awaits our subscribers over on Warchant.com.
Yeah, we'll work out when we'll tape it. But yeah, me and Aslan are going to. I'm going to do like kind of a breakdown of the interview. What we discussed, and then we'll have a full story either later this weekend or early next week. It'll be very good. It'll be very detailed. It will cover everything in detail of teams that he feels the most comfortable with, what FSU needs to do, what he likes about FSU, I think is the most important thing right now, and what he has to say about Norvell, why Norvell is connecting in a big way with Terrion Arnold, and I'll tell you about that later this weekend or early next week in our video or whenever that's released. But we got that coming up. I'm going to work on obviously answering your questions quickly right after this is over or shortly thereafter. Then I'm going to finish up my defensive hollow board follow-ups. I'm almost done with that, guys. So that will be posted tonight along with your questions from the board chat. So we'll get into that. And then I'll probably start hitting up some prospect updates, get that stuff done, and look forward to the Terrion Arnold feature that we have coming up.
All right. Thanks to our King Tay Miller for the donation. Once again, Sandra Gordon, Premier Youth Theater in Claremont, Florida. Go support your local theater, everybody. And Ray Pereira as well. Thanks to you all for watching. Michael, your time is appreciated. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out, everybody. It's always a nice thing to do for us. We'll run it back at a later date. Thanks, Michael.